What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Pixelists. I'm thrown off right now. So let me just explain to you guys. We don't have our normal intro right now because we ran into an issue with the music. So that's why we're kind of just abruptly in your face immediately. And because of that, I lost my normal rhythm. I forgot what I normally say, but
Normally, I have to imagine the music because I can never hear it.
I know.
We revealed that on a live stream that there is
Yeah.
no music on my end. I just kind of imagine it. But yeah, our videos got demonetized for this music track that we've used. How long have we been doing this channel? Like 3 years or something?
Yeah. And the deep lore is that the very first song we used was different.
Yeah,
But then like maybe a month or two in, we switched to the one you're familiar with, and like it was copyright free. At least that's what the internet told me. And
yeah.
then 3 years never had an issue, but all of a sudden, you know,
Apparently we hit critical mass.
yeah, I guess
That's what that means.
I guess so. Yeah.
We hit the
Um,
point where the YouTube cops were like, these two guys over
yeah.
here,
Wait a minute.
we got to do something. But well, I know there's a longer video. We won't really get into it, but we were taking a little smoozing, a little small talk. You had a good time on your trip for the Critical Role live show.
Yes, yes. This is the first thing we're recording after I had just gotten back from the Critical Role live show. Since this is our Worlds Beyond audience, we're not really going to get into it now.
Yeah,
We'll talk more about it in our next Critical Role video, but it was awesome. It was fantastic. Really enjoyed the experience, and I don't know. In a perfect world, I'd like to say I'm going to go to every live show, but finances probably won't make that feasible. But if the
yeah,
stars align, I would love to go to the next one.
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was a good
That's really
time.
cool. Well, it's we'll probably maybe even chat about it a little bit Friday morning at our or Friday afternoon at our stream.
Yeah.
Because we'll have watched that episode on Thursday night. So anyway, well, welcome back, man, and for everybody who's here, if you're new to the channel, welcome to Two Awkward Dudes who.
Should we
That's what
change the
call-
channel?
Yeah.
Should we change the channel to that? That might be the better
Yeah.
the better
But
name.
Two Awkward Dudes talking about our love for all things D&D and more specifically Worlds Beyond Number. The stuff's getting good, man.
Wow.
It's a
So
lot of
good.
interesting stuff happening. A very short episode too.
Yeah,
only an
that's what I was
hour
gonna
long.
say, man. Why are they doing this to us? Like, not every episode is good. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but like we're getting into the supremely juicy territory, and the episodes just keep getting shorter. It feels like.
It's going to make our discussion shorter too because we're used
Yeah.
to 2-hour conversations or 2-hour episodes to break down. But
Yeah.
anyway, so well, anything we want to announce other than just jumping into the episode?
No, I don't think so. Just super quickly, join the Discord. As always, we want more Worlds Beyond people there in the community. We'd love to have you. And then like Blake already mentioned, we will have our live stream this Friday. So come hang out with us there. 1 p.m. Central Time. So whenever that is for you, come hang out with us. But we also, speaking of the Discord, have a channel there where if you won't be able to make it to the live show, but you want to ask us a question, you can drop it there and we will still talk about it. And then you can catch the VOD. But yeah, other than that, nothing else. So I suppose without further ado, let's launch into our recap of Worlds Beyond Number, which if this is your first time watching,
Sorry, I didn't hit record on the recap.
My bad, man.
Just embracing the awkwardness. I was like so lost in the sauce of like what we're doing today.
It
so,
happens. It happens.
yeah. Go on, and again, I'm ready now.
All right.
So
If this is your first time watching us, what we like to do is first do an in-depth recap of the episode so that we're all on the same page before we launch into our discussion of it. And we cut that recap out, host it separately as its own video just for your viewing convenience. So if you happen to be on just that recap video, but you want to see our full thoughts, that video will be linked down in the description below. But without further ado, let us jump into episode 28 called The Staff. So we pick up right where we left off, which is this moment of Ursulon having taken Suvi's scarf and thrown it out the window because they figured out that that is what was spying on them, eavesdropping on them. So once that has been done, Ame then tells Suvi and Ursulon about what she had just seen through the fox's eyes, which was this argument between Marara and Indri, and how they basically knew Ame knew what was up with them basically trying to, kill her essentially and get rid of her station. And so they have kind of this heated exchange and they split ways, basically saying like, time's running out. Like, we got to figure this out. So Suvi, basically her immediate thoughts are, I need to get back on that apprentice, Neef, that gave me this scarf. Like, she needs to get what's coming to her. But they're like, that can wait for now. We got more important things. And Ursulon chimes in and says, hey, by the way, Suvi, why was the wizard Straw crying when I, saw her? And Suvi's like, what? Like, I didn't know that. I'm not sure. I guess I maybe need to go check in with my people. And it's at this point that Brennan asks Erika for a stealth check for the fox. And she rolls really well. So Ame then shares vision with the fox once more and can see that he is hiding underneath a pile of stars. He is in the library of stars that Suvi was in earlier. And Indri is in here as well. And she's basically waving her hand, and that massive telescope starts to shift and look up towards the heavens, and the dome opens up. And then basically starlight starts like pouring in kind of through this telescope. And what's interesting is that the stars, or she's basically like gaining more stars, but the stars in the sky don't disappear. They remain. So it's basically kind of like taking water from a well, is how Brennan describes it. So after that process happens, Indri then says morning wren song, and all of these stars start to like float up from the different wells in the room. She starts like plucking certain ones and then places one in the middle of like this central well. And when that happens, this kind of like imagery starts to appear, essentially a memory, as if she's viewing a memory. And basically it's the memory of the stars, as we come to find out. And in this memory, there is a beautiful young woman wearing a kind of patchwork blue hat, walking in a courtyard alongside Indri. And Indri looks the exact same as she looks right now. And what we find out is that this young witch is Grandmother Wren, Morning Wren Song. And this is a memory of her first coming to the keep of the world's heart at Indri's castle. And she basically, Indri in the memory says, my deepest condolences, my sweet sister. And Indri in real time is kind of watching this memory, and she touches it and then it ends. And she kind of picks up that star again, and everything goes away. She waves her hand, everything returns to its place, and Indri walks out of the library. We then cut back to Ame, who kind of tells the others what she saw and is like, hey, we need to go to this library and check out what other memories we might be able to see. And Suvi's like, oh yeah, I know where that is. And at this point, everyone kind of goes their separate ways for now, because Suvi wants to go check in with her wizard friends. So she leaves, grabs her scarf from outside, and then heads back to her cadre. Ursulon and Ame stay where they are because Ame wants to investigate what else is in this keep, if there's anything else that's been left by any of her predecessors. And she looks around, doesn't really find anything, but she wonders if there are other, if the other witches that used to be in the Coven of Elders had keeps here, and if there's anything she might be able to learn from that. So she continues looking a little bit, and then at one point does find like needle and thread, and has this thought about how the domain of the world's heart, which entails kind of putting these different elements of the world together and keeping them whole, if you will. She's thinking on that, and then thinks to herself, well, what would the Coven of Elders be? Like, whose realm does that fall under? And realizes that, if anyone's domain, it's probably hers. And so that might be, she might have some power to wield here after all. At this point, Ame then decides to leave and go wander to see what else she can find. Perhaps those other, other sisters from the past, if she could find their keeps. Anyway, we then cut to Suvi, who is arriving at her wizard chambers, and there we have Maddie, Straw, and Sworn. Maddie, who is the young girl, Straw, who was the helmswoman, and Sworn, who was the older wizard. Suvi takes off the scarf once more, tries to kind of bury it away so they can't hear anything, and she just immediately realizes there's a very weird vibe in this room. Straw seems rattled, Maddie seems like to be blushing almost, and Sworn seems disturbed. So Suvi's like, what's going on in here? And Straw says, nothing happened. And Suvi's like, no, like, tell me right now what's going on in here or you can leave. And Straw's like, I won't be spoken to this way. And she just immediately misty steps out of the room. And Sworn's like, she's lost it. And Maddie says, yeah, I saw her with the Witch of the Wind and Stars. And Suvi's like, immediately just turns to run after Straw. And Brennan asks for a wisdom save. 7 from Suvi, and we're then told that Sworn is casting Hold Person on Suvi. So make another wisdom save. And Suvi hits a nat 20 on this one, and she's trying to figure out, did he just do that to help me or to help Straw? But this is all kind of happening simultaneously. And in that moment, like, Suvi's looking down the hallway and she sees Grimoire just basically eviscerate Straw as she's running away. She like decapitates her with her fangs and then starts like tearing her limb from limb and ultimately like hurls the torso up in the air, I guess like lodging it in the ceiling a bit, and then just is like drinking the blood as it drips down from the ceiling. Like, it was absolutely metal and brutal. And Suvi's just kind of standing there frozen. And after Grimoire like finishes feasting on Straw, she picks up the Straw's staff, walks towards Suvi, who does not avert her gaze. She's not challenging, but she's not running away. Grimoire like stalks up, kneels in front of Suvi, holds up the staff, unscrews it, and out falls the contract. Grimoire then just gets up, turns around, and like bounds off on all fours. And Suvi picks up the contract, leaves the staff, and walks back into the room and is like, what the hell? And basically what they find out is that that like fall in love check that happens with Indri, both Maddie and Straw failed it. And Maddie was like writing a love poem to Indri and she was going to give it to her. But when she did, she saw Straw like kneeling before Indri, pledging her loyalty for her, saying like, I'm done with the Citadel. I'll do anything you ask. And Brennan reveals that this is the result of a natural 1 on that love check, basically. So that's why there was the awkward vibe. That's why Straw was being weird. And Suvi is like, okay, there's nothing else you two can do here. Maddie, Sworn, go back to the ship, use the telemet, report home everything that's happening. And if I don't come back in 3 days, you're to leave without me, go retrieve as much firepower as possible, and come back and scorch this place. And so the two of them leave to go do that. And as soon as Suvi is alone, she basically immediately vomits. And that's where I'll hand it off to you for the second half.
So Ame then is, just carousing around the Citadel, trying to learn more about the witches. Nothing bad ever happens here, right? And she has her needle and thread, and she eventually makes her way to this room where there's like a large fireplace and a bucket of coal in front of it. And it's around here where her little, I think of like a little magical grasshopper, like the jeweled grasshopper, whatever it's called, jumps out from its cage and lands on the bucket of coal. We find out that she has named this little grasshopper Rin, by the way. And as it lands on the bucket of coal, one large lump of coal basically coughs and reveals itself to be a spirit, a fireplace spirit, I guess. This is Toph, like cough, but with a T. And he has a sort of like this jeweled diamond center and like this coal exterior. And his job is apparently to keep the fires going within the Citadel. The two of them, he's a very sweet character. They have some back and forth where Ame asks like, hey, do you remember grandmother Ren? Like, you've been here a while. And he's like, oh, yes, she was always so nice to me. Had that rooster with her. And basically gives like a general history of the Citadel, mentioning that he's been here so long, he's seen every witch come and go, every apprentice come and go, all except for one, Hakea. Hakea is the only one who's never been replaced and is, of course, the oldest of all the witches. Ame also asks about Neef and is kind of like, what's the deal with Neef? Like, this whole, it's a weird relationship. And Toph basically says that it's it it's a peculiar circumstance because it certainly doesn't benefit Endry to have an apprentice who doesn't seem to understand magic. Ame points this out as well and says like it just doesn't seem very genuine. It doesn't add up. And then Toph adds that when Endry was an apprentice, Endry was absolutely well taken care of and was trained very well by her witch. We also get a random detail that Ame doesn't seem to, shockingly doesn't like press on, but Toph adds that Endry actually killed her witch who trained her that she was an apprentice for. And Ame's like, wait, what? Oh, okay, bye. And Toph's like, well, gotta go. And jumps basically back into the bucket of coal. And Ame basically says like, hey, if you'd like, I can keep the fire going for you. And this actually is a really nice gesture to Toph as well. Leaving Ame, we go to Ursulon, who is painting. He has a performance check by Brennan, and Brennan comments that he's actually getting pretty good at painting. He's getting, it's becoming a really great skill set. And then we go back to the sad character of the trio, Suvi, who's sort of walking the ramparts. And in the distance, she sees Sworn and Maddie, Sworn sort of like arms around Maddie, walking both of them up to the deck of the Meridian, seemingly following through with the orders that Suvi had given them. Ame comes up and reconnects with her, and we get sort of the same dialogue of Suvi being a wizard and hating witches, and just she expresses what she saw with Grimoire. Saying hating witches is probably too strong of a way to put it, but what she saw with Grimoire, and basically just being like, what is up with you guys? Like I have tried to extend a hand. I've tried to be like, I'm trying to do the right thing, and yet it keeps getting thrown back in my face. I think there was an insight check that Brennan asked her to do, but Brennan then gives this incredibly beautiful description of how Suvi in that moment realizes that Ame is basically out of her depth. That he gives the example of a kid who's walking like in their parents' boots and is really just trying to make the most of what they have. And it's really in that moment that Suvi's compassion for Ame and empathy for Ame's predicament really grows. And Ame also says like, hey, I know your trust in me is precious, and I want you to know I will not break that trust. Just a very sweet moment between the two of them. Suvi basically responds to that with, I'm not going to let anything happen to you. I'm not going to let them hurt you. The fox pokes up and says, we're not going to run. Like, we're not going to let anything bad happen, which is exactly what Brennan would have someone say before something bad happens, is all I'm saying. And then he has basically Ursulon walking up and just seeing this beautiful embrace with Ame and Suvi. And that is where our episode ends. Episode 28 of Worlds Beyond Number, The Staff. And if you're watching just our recap, you can click the link to get our full episode discussion.
Pop, pop.
Pop, pop.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, I did not see the brutal murder coming.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah, I loved, what was it like? We're in two different movies.
Yeah.
Two very different experiences.
Yeah. 100%.
So yeah, that was like the visceral side of Brennan that I really love. Like when you least expect it.
Yeah.
I feel like Brennan does such a good job of just pressing the oh crap button of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Also, I was lost in the detail. What is the contract? Like, what am I missing there? Was that
so? The contract was the fake plan that Steele had. Remember, because like there's the secret plan that Suvi forgot to protect herself.
Yeah.
And then they planted this contract in the staff that was, and don't quote me on this, but it was essentially like a deal between Ame and the Citadel, a la Suvi, that's like, you know, we're going to come help you, but in return, like you need to negotiate for like the benefit of the Citadel in this meeting of the Coven of Elders.
Okay. Why did Straw have the staff?
I think I don't know, like that's just where they hit it. It was almost
Oh,
like
okay.
we want it to seem like we're being sneaky, but like we
Yeah.
want to get caught so that they think, oh, this was their plan, and then let their
Okay.
guard down.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, I
Yeah,
guess,
because
yeah,
I was like trying to track, and I was like, wait, what is this document? But then it was
yeah,
never touched on again, other than Suvi being like, I don't know how Grimoire knew it was there, but I was
right,
like, this has to be like a callback, but I'm just forgetting the exact details of it.
yeah.
So okay.
So, so yeah, I don't know why specifically like Straw had it as opposed to like Suvi herself. But maybe it was,
Yeah. And
whatever.
that threw me too, was I was like, wait, staff has a contract in it?
Yeah.
So okay. Yeah.
Which how did they know? I'm wondering. I mean, I'm guessing just because Straw rolled the natural one and pledged herself, like she maybe just told Indri about it.
Mm-hmm.
But then
Yeah.
if that is why, then why didn't she like give it to Indri right then? Like why was it still in the staff? I don't know. Maybe not really important to like dig that deep into that one detail, but
Maybe just like to keep the ruse up that
yeah.
she was still allied with the Citadel.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Um, but also the detail of like Grimoire, like if you're like within a mile of Grimoire
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
run, like
Grimoire is terrifying, man.
yeah,
And not that it would have actually happened, especially since Brennan is basically piloting the Fox, but calling back to that convo with Ame and the Fox in the previous episode where the Fox is like, let's run. Like, if they had run, they would have died, you know?
oh,
Because, like,
I didn't think of that.
because they were
Yeah,
assuredly in range, if Straw was, which it's just so cool to think about, like, how that, and not that, there are hard mechanics for it necessarily, but like how that feat would work. Um,
hmm
but yeah, super cool. And just that moment right after, like in the hallway where,
yeah.
um, Brennan described it as like just how powerful she was. Yeah, loved that entire scene.
Do you think Straw's gonna be okay?
Yeah, yeah, it's just a flesh wound, It's a quick cure wounds. She'll be right as rain.
Yeah,
But yeah, bro, he didn't hold back at all. Like that was just
yeah,
brutal.
yeah.
Mm,
And of course, Taylor Moore only adds like another
yes.
layer of, you know, perfect horror to it.
Yes, that like I was trying to figure out because, and I'm not going to remember it to describe it well, but like when Suvi looks and then there's like a 10-second, it's just music and like
Yeah,
with like a heartbeat. And I was like, what is he implying here? Like I still didn't see it coming. And then, yeah, Taylor just as always absolutely crushes it with
yeah,
the subtle heartbeats at different points. And then I also really loved when Suvi was humming the Rain Road or whatever. He kind of put a little bit of that instrumentation in the background.
yeah, hmm
Um, so good.
yeah.
Yeah, like so I don't know. Like what happens now from that moment? Like clearly they know. So like I mean, is there going to be more confrontation between Indri and Suvi like when they next meet or was this kind of we know what you're up to and this is what the consequences are and now it's kind of like it is what it is,
Kind of felt like
I
the
don't know.
latter. Yeah, it kind of felt like in like when you watch the horror movie and like the night is still young and like I don't know, the power goes out and like two or three people are like, we're gonna go get help, and then they like leave, and you really know that you're
Yeah.
like they're left to their own devices. So like her remaining, which I thought she had like a bigger troop that was with her.
There's more
Um,
people on the ship, I know that much. But I guess maybe when
okay.
they were like, the whole segment with like properly
Yeah.
inviting them or whatever, I think maybe only those three were the ones that came.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Well, point being though, now it's really just
yeah,
Suvi, Ame, and Ursulon and the
yeah,
Fox.
yeah. And I really loved, just we're kind of, I'm jumping to the very end here, but I really love that moment where kind of Ame and Suvi, I wouldn't say they necessarily like, maybe they did like fully kind of forgive each other for kind of like their spat, but just that moment of Suvi like coming to that realization of what Ame is faced with here. And then beautiful moment. But I'm curious, the imagery with the needle and the thread happened twice in this episode. The big one was there at the end. Is the implication from your end that the fox is doing something with magic?
I didn't think so.
What do you
I
think
kind
that
of
was?
I kind of took it to be like, and maybe this is way too like forcing it, but like what's like golden, like the golden hour, like at sunset or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Like that's kind of the impression I got, was like it was just this very like, as the day was ending, like this beautiful moment between the three of them. But I didn't take it to mean anything like magical.
Well,
But maybe
you
I
know what I'm
missed
talking
it.
about though?
Yeah, where Brennan talks about like Ursulon walking up and there was like the cat's cradle of
Yeah.
the three of them. Yeah. So I
Because there
didn't.
was another moment too in when she was talking with Toph,
Hmm.
where like you mentioned the fox first, which is why I thought it might have something to do with the fox. Because like when Ame was like faking
Hmm.
zipping her lips, but like a
Yeah.
golden thread appeared. So like you think both those
Yeah,
instances are
that's
just
true actually.
imagery
Yeah.
or like is there something going on there?
Yeah, and I almost took that to be like a little like witchy cantrip kind of thing. Like that just she was just doing like dancing lights,
Yeah.
like a random thing. But that you might be onto something. I didn't actually put those two together.
So yeah, I have no real thoughts because I didn't know what to make of it. But one, I wasn't sure if it was something the fox was doing or if it was just not the fox, but Ame's magic in some form. And whatever the case, if it thus far at least didn't really feel like what's the word? Meaningful is not the word, but it didn't feel like a spell like was being cast with an effect, but felt more
Mhm.
like adding to the moment. So like I don't
Yeah.
know if it is just pure Brennan Lee Mulligan, set dressing, which he's so good with, or if there is something more there with like the evolution
Yeah.
of her or the fox's powers as her familiar or something. But um
He was
specifically with the final moment with the cat's cradle, I felt like it was cat's cradle to me, what is that thing called? With like the string with your fingers,
yeah. Yeah.
There's like a word for that, but whatever that is, that's like my
Yeah.
experience with it. But I was thinking like since thread, it was like representative of the way the world's heart is supposed to like put things together. So like in that
Mm.
moment, like it was a good thing. It was like what was happening. So beyond the, poetic meaning, I'm curious if there's anything else there.
Yeah. And I mean, I, I was so lost in the brilliance of Brennan, like taking that moment of insight, like because he could have just been like, yeah, and you realize like Ami's out of her depth. Like, oh, okay, yeah. But like crafted it so
Yeah.
beautifully. Had such an incredible analogy of, a kid being in their parents' shoes. So I think some of that detail is probably lost on me in that I was just so like, this man is a prize we
Yeah.
must protect.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That really is his gift, man, to just like immediately distill down to like the most.
he's had a lot of really great. I think about the moment before Ursulon struck Wavebreaker at Naram, and he
Yeah.
talked about he was infinite, and then he was like, but um, maybe before being infinite, you must be singular or something to that effect.
Yeah.
So he's had some really. He's just really good. This guy's pretty good at D&D. I feel
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. He maxed out his poignancy stat for sure.
Yeah.
Um, incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Hell
love that
yeah.
moment. So yeah, I know I jumped us to the end there. To go back a little bit, I'm curious about what the coal spirit was talking about.
And why
What?
Ame was just like,
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, they just dropped the bombshell of like the death thing, and Ame didn't really react, and also the coal spirit himself was just like, "Well, see you later." Like,
yeah.
gotta go. Um,
It does make me wonder if it's less of like a bombshell. Like we talked about the other station um, the station that had betrayed its mentor,
right,
and how Brennan sort of clarified, like maybe like betrayal isn't like murdered her, but like did not take up the mantle.
right.
And so if like if the apprentice killing the master is a little bit, you know, less taboo than we would think it would be. Like maybe that's why Toph was more nonchalant about it.
Yeah, I
Or
mean, Yeah, I was very curious about that, but yeah, I don't know. It could also be that maybe he just doesn't really care.
Yeah,
Like if he's a spirit, like maybe it's just,
yeah.
he's just here to make fires and chill.
How old is Indri, by the way? Because he had the well, this is to the other example, seeing through the fox of like Indri pulling the memory of like the young Rin
Right.
coming, and how Indri looked the same that she does now, which this was presumably a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I wonder, how does Indri look so good? What's going on there? Is she like
Yeah.
drinking the blood of virgins or something? Like, what's going on, Indri?
Yeah.
You
I'm
super
with
evil
you.
or what? Or
I'm with you.
but
Something weird's going on. And we even talked about like since she was like seemingly so narcissistic, everyone falls in love
mhm,
with her that like
yeah,
she probably was doing like, her vanity is probably she's probably very vain. So like
yeah,
I'm wondering if there is like something magical or weird going on in terms of she is like keeping her eternal youth or if it's illusion. Like,
yeah,
is she
right,
really old, but she just like wears a glamour? Um, I think the former would be more interesting, which could also play into why like why does she keep like failing apprentices or do they die? Like is she stealing her apprentices' youth and that's how
right.
she's staying the same age? I feel like those things could be connected. Also interesting that like as soon as their apprentices are like good at magic, that's when they get I don't want to say killed because we don't know what happens to them, I guess, but like, is she threatened by them? And if so, why have an apprentice at all? Which means maybe because she's stealing their youth, or I don't know. Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just saying, I think having the apprentice is like just checking the box. Like, hey, everyone's supposed to have you're supposed to have one. It's like, or it's, if nothing else, it probably like protects your authority a little bit, because if you don't have one, it probably creates too many questions of like, why don't you have an apprentice? And so like keeping like the norm about everything, but then like, oh yeah, my apprentice failed out again,
Yeah,
but Ame figured it out herself. Like there's clearly something up with Neef in terms of like she's basically having to clean the entire castle, isn't really being asked to learn witchy or witchy stuff. So yeah, I could see that. I mean, I could see there being like this weird, creepy, you know, consume their essence kind of weird thing. But
yeah, yeah. That's a good point about the
th-
like appearances.
yeah, this happens in D&D though, where like a bombshell gets dropped, and like as the viewer, you're like, anybody? Like nobody. Okay. So anyway,
And
maybe it'll
maybe
come back up.
yeah, and I mean maybe it was because Ame like knew like the spirit wasn't going to tell her anything else, so maybe like more will be
Yeah.
delved into that later. But yeah, you got me thinking. I wonder if like, because yeah, Indri, even though she looks the same for whatever reason, is really old because we know that I think the word was thrown out that Rin was centuries plural
Hmm.
old, and
Yeah.
here we had a young Rin with Indri looking exactly the same. But what's interesting is that she's not the oldest. Takea is,
Right.
so which I mean she is ancient, so that like checks out. But yeah, I'm very curious. Like I wonder if even I don't know because I was gonna say like if Indri was the oldest, which she's not, like maybe that's why she has the apprentice to like keep up like oh like her time's coming soon. She's ancient, so time for her to train an apprentice. But I mean I guess Ikea does have an apprentice as well, so maybe that could be a part of it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm very curious. It makes the whole fact that Hikea was the one that kind of stood up for Ame more interesting too. Like I don't know. I'm still trying to piece together like the weird. I don't want to say alliances, but like the
Yeah.
different. Well, I can't think of the word I'm looking for here. Not missions, but like what everyone wants out of all
Yeah.
of this.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but at the very least, it seems like Indri is out for herself. And okay, circling back around now, the conversation with a young Rin, it seemed like it was very similar to what's happening right now. Like the
Yeah.
same way Ame came because she's taking over. Did you get that same impression that
Yeah.
this was Rin like
Yeah.
first becoming the Witch of the World's Heart,
Yeah.
which made me wonder, are there more parallels here? And was Indri like trying to kill Rin back then the same way she's now, like, and maybe it failed and now it's like, okay, now's our second chance to get this done,
Yeah.
or not, or was, was
Yeah. I
that a
mean,
more innocent meeting back then?
if you're 1,000 years old, like what's another 100 years, in terms of like making a plan work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see something like that.
And could she have had a hand in the Rin's predecessor dying?
Right. Right.
Because we don't know that she had a hand in Rin dying, but and we don't have to launch into this conversation again, but there's the whole like the Pilgrim Under the Stars kind of having similar goals, maybe with Indri and Marara or whoever. So like maybe they were kind of working in tandem. So back then,
Yeah.
could they have been working in
Is this your
working in tandem?
yeah, we're working together.
So
Yeah.
I don't trust her, as far as I can throw her, basically, is
Yeah.
the ultimate point I'm getting at.
Yeah, yeah. What about the library, man? That was a cool
Yeah.
little scene.
Yeah. That crazy power too. And Brennan touched on it. We don't really know like the extent, but like, can the stars see the memories inside or during the day? But like,
yeah, and I really liked how Brennan called attention to that, even of just like I don't know, it like somehow made it more realistic of these little memory stars, of being him just calling to attention that like, yeah, you wonder how would this work, and like in like a dark cave, how would it work? And why do you think she was recounting that memory though?
Yeah, I was wondering that too. Like initially, I don't know, just seeing if I really don't know that why that specific one. But it was part of the reason I wondered if that's why, like, if she was doing something similar to Rin that she's now doing to Ame, and so for like maybe just trying to like double check
I almost wondered if
something.
she was like sad or grieving or something, because like that's what when you lose a loved one, like you go back and
That's
look at
interesting.
photos of them and like videos of them, and so it was this interesting disconnect of like, it almost feels like she's grieving Ren, but yet she seems diametrically opposed to what Ren would have wanted.
Yeah.
Which maybe that just makes her all the more compelling villain. Is it's not like, twirling mustache, I will destroy the world's heart, but it's kind of like you think about Indri, for all of her vanity and disingenuousness, I guess. The time in the previous episode where she like leaned down to Ame and was like, "Hey, don't worry, we'll only kill you if we think that's what's best." I almost wonder if that was like an absolute candid remark from Indri, and so maybe she is grieving in some way, and like, is villainous in terms of her aspirations, but isn't like, for her it makes sense. It's like, well, I don't like that I got to kill Ame, but it's for what's best, or I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't initially read it as grief, but I could see that now.
And it may not be. It could be like you said, it's more of like a nefarious, like, this was the moment I decided I was going to destroy the world's heart, and she's going back to that first, like, to sort of redouble her efforts. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm really curious what her ultimate plan is. And we did talk about this, so we don't have to go back into it, but like, is she just trying to consolidate power?
Right.
In terms of the less Coven of Elders there are, the more influence each of them has.
Right.
Or is it more complicated than that?
Right.
But yeah, I don't know what the purpose of that specific memory was. It seemed to be, I mean, I guess she's done looking at the memories, but when she said the name, like, and I presume it's just all of the memories she has of Grandmother Rin. So I wonder if like she still could maybe like be going through others, and that's just the one we got to see, or if that was the one she was looking for, and that's all, like, we just got to figure out why.
I think that was the one, because didn't she like turn it all off and leave?
Yeah,
as
she
soon as was
did.
done watching.
Yeah.
So seems like she wanted that very specific memory.
And then is Suvi going there by herself? Because like Suvi was like, "Oh, I know where that is," and was, they were interested, and then they parted ways. So I wasn't sure if that's like we're gonna reconvene and go there together later, or like Suvi, you go check that out solo.
Man, at this point, I'm like, don't split the party, guys. Like,
Right? Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I'm very curious how like the pacing of everything plays out because we know also it's still the same day, but the
Yeah.
next day is like the trial. Well, not trials, not the right word, but like the vote. Um,
Yeah.
so I mean, like, oh, and then tonight still Ursulon has to
Yeah.
go drink till he's sick.
Yeah.
So
That'll be
we
good.
we still may be a couple of episodes away from the vote.
Yeah.
So
What's interesting? I mean, we don't know what's going on with the Ursulon thing. Like that it could take a turn. Like, because he wanted to kill Ursulon, but maybe that's just like the way
right.
they roll. And so like maybe it is a friendly thing and maybe they'll get closer. But that's interesting because like if that is a good thing, let's call it, then that kind of ingratiates the crew with Grimoire a little bit. And
Yep.
then I would say that she probably has a little bit of respect for Suvi after Suvi just kind of stayed there and watched and stared her down. So like
Mhm.
I wonder if those things keep adding up and it's like maybe Grimoire
Mhm.
becomes team Ame in terms of the vote.
Yeah. I think
Is
it'll
that
still go back to Hakea. If Hakea is like the implied, like, the other one we have to get rid of, I think Grimoire won't, regardless of how she feels about the group, won't want Hakea
that's true.
eliminated. So,
Because there's 5, right? Counting Ame.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, surely she can't. I guess she can vote for herself. So she needs to swing 2 others, and it's obviously not going to be Indri
Yeah.
or Marara. So
Well, I mean, but also I said this a couple episodes ago, like the way this plays out may not be how we think it will. It may not be because we talked about this last episode of like surely Indri and Marar aren't gonna be like, oh no, we didn't think of this. Like,
right, right,
okay, you got us.
yeah.
But it could be that Hakea being as old as she is, they're like, well, we're gonna have to get rid of another station. Hakea's like, okay, get rid of me. I've lived a good life, and so like the process still like goes through, but because of like the nature it happened, it is what allows Ahmed to survive in some way. Which I think is a lot more interesting than just like, darn,
Yeah.
we're gonna get you next vote. So,
Just you wait.
but, yeah,
Yeah, that's a good point. I do expect it to be more complicated than we think, for sure.
yeah.
Hmm.
All right. Well, anything else from this episode?
Let me quickly take a gander. No, we hit the main bullet points I wanted to hit. Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm curious what exactly their plan is. Indri, like, so Indri we know got to straw. Presumably that's what's
Sorry,
set.
I'm distracted because my daughter is crying outside my door. She can't figure out how to get her underwear off to go potty.
Hate it when that happens.
So I just hear her like sobbing. Like,
Well, this we can wrap it up because I'm just yapping to myself here. But the boiled down point was just I'm curious what exactly information has been shared and what's planned because clearly Indri and Marara are working together, but it seems as if Hakea and Grimoire probably aren't in the loop to that extent,
right.
which just makes me curious, like what Indri told Grimoire because clearly the running set off her aura, but she knew about the contract, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
like was she kind of waiting? Like was that all planned? Like Indri knew that Straw would run, which would set off Grimoire. I'm just curious about like the intricacies of like who all knows what right now.
Yeah.
So that's just what I'm percolating on.
When Suvi had the real plan and then she was like mind wiped or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
was it Straw who came in and like moved the device or
No,
whatever? Or?
I think it was sworn.
Okay.
If it wasn't sworn, it was somebody else that's still on the ship. But
Okay,
I think
cool.
it was sworn.
Okay, I couldn't remember if it was the helms person, but then I was like, so does Indri know like the real plan then?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
'cause I
don't
didn't know if
think
that
so.
person had wiped their own memory or
Yeah,
not.
Suvi was the only one that knew.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe sworn knows, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
that would only be if like Steele told him beforehand, because we do
Yeah.
know he was the one that like came and packed up the telemet and like
Right. That's
cleaned
why I
up the
was wondering.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But that reminded me of one other thing I wanted to say, which I don't know that this is what Aabria was doing, but I think it is, and I thought it was like a really clever like foreshadowing, kind of showing her hand, was that moment with the rain road where she says, "I'm just kind of humming that." So I think that might lead to her getting someone to sing, which we know is the next thing she needs to do.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe not, maybe completely unrelated, but
No, that's clever. Yeah.
so I'm curious because she just sent home her homeboys, which
Yeah.
we talked about. Like it probably wouldn't count if they were the ones that sang, but now, oh, this is another interesting. This
She's
is
gonna
another
sing
interesting.
herself. No
Yeah,
one
an
wants to
interesting.
sing, huh? Well, I guess I'll do it.
So another, we've talked about this before, but given what happened at the end of this episode with the way they kind of reconciled Ame and
Yeah.
Suvi, if Suvi gets Ame to sing, that could blow that all up again, because Suvi
Yeah.
doesn't know because her mind is wiped, but still
Yeah.
it would be her manipulating Ame. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if Ame will be the one to sing, or if she'll somehow
Yeah.
get Indri to sing or something.
Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, then
Okay.
she needs to go back to the library to get the box. So I guess
Yeah.
maybe those things will all coincide.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, that's all I got.
Well, I love Tuesdays because I have a lot of driving time, so I get to tune in. So I'm excited
Yeah.
for it.
Tomorrow, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
All right. Well, let us know
Beautiful.
what you guys thought of the episode. And don't forget to join our Discord. We need more good discussion in our Worlds Beyond channel.
We do.
So join the Discord and join the conversation with us. Would love to have more chatter with you all. So I think
Absolutely.
that'll do it, I think.
Alrighty, y'all. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you this Friday. I think probably is the next time.
Mm-hmm.
But come hang out in our Discord this Thursday for Critical Role for the live show watch if you're a CR fan. But anyways, y'all. Till next time. Bye.